high school, I was at a summer camp that separated the boys from the girls. We would normally sleep in separated cabins. However, this being a nice night, our counselor decided to let us camp outside. We decided to make a beeline for the girls' campsite. Except when we got there, we were dumbfounded at what to do. We decided that throwing miscellaneous items into the fire, creating subsequent explosions, would be a good icebreaker. Unfortunately, due to our brilliance, we were quickly brought back to our camp and separated from the girls again. Not being discouraged, we decided to try again. As we began to leave for the girls' campsite again, we heard an extremely loud bang, as if from a rifle. The sound was followed by another bang, followed by silence. We all became paralyzed and unsure what to do. We believed it might have been from the girls' camp. We were too afraid to find out. We could see a flashlight in the distance waving around the area. I remember lying quietly, barely able to sleep, joking with fellow campers who would get shot first if that was indeed from a gun. The next morning, we woke up alive and very confused as to what had happened. I actually only found out what had happened when I got home from camp. A man had shot his ex at a house right by our campsite. What I remember the most is that the neighbor said she didn't call the police right away because she figured the sound was from some stupid kids blowing up things at the campsite. I was out in the dark canyon wilderness of Utah after 2 weeks of driving and backpacking around the country alone. The plan was a 7-day trip, and after a few days of setbacks, I was on my last night. By this time, I was already a little scared of the dark, but that's just what happens when you are your only company for 3 weeks. Anyway, on the 6th day, after halfway through my hike, I ran out of water. I made camp and went upstream in search of water. After a little hiking, I found a little spring with deliciously cold, refreshing water. I drank some before realizing I didn't bring my water bottles, so I hiked a half mile or so back to the camp to get them. On my trip back to fill my water bottles, I kept feeling very vulnerable and uncomfortable. Every little rustle in the bushes set me off. I could hear birds calling in the distance that set me off. I kept looking for something following me. I can only describe my emotion as pure terror. It got to the point where I picked up a branch to defend myself. I kept telling myself that it was just pure paranoia, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. I finally got to the water and filled up my bottle, constantly looking over my shoulder. The feeling of unease was still with me when I headed back to my camp. There, I came upon a fresh mountain lion print placed directly between my 2 footprints. It's one thing to think your fears are unfounded paranoia. It's much worse to know that they are true. A few years ago, my partner and I went camping up on a weekend to our usual spot. It's very low key, never usually anyone up on this mountains besides 1 or 2 people at a time, and even at that time they're miles away from your campground. It's not a well-known spot, so just like every year we brought my parents' little elderly dog. Set up camp, ate some food, and drank some beer around the campsite. When we arrived prior to this, we scoped out the area to see how busy it was. There was absolutely nobody in sight. The entire mountain and campgrounds were entirely empty. We're used to having at least one hunter or fisher in the area. We've never not seen at least one person the entire trip, so we sat around the fire, completely relaxed with the little dog nearby. When we decided to get into bed, my usual, very complacent, placid pup refuses to settle inside the tent. It's pretty hot this time of year, so we had the tent unzipped with just the mesh covering the opening to let some breeze in. But my pup was looking through the mesh and sniffing, zoning in on something entirely. We decided to get up and check out the camp for whatever he's looking at. We don't see anything, so we decided to sit by the fire to tire us out. My sleepy pup unsettles suddenly and starts growling deeply into one direction in the woods. We decided to grab the hunting knife and axe and listen. He snarled and barked vigorously, which took us out by surprise because he's been completely comfortable every other year. After a few hours of him acting on high alert, we decided to flip the truck lights on to illuminate our camp. As we're surrounded by darkness, we're listening intently, trying to figure out what he's seeing or hearing. After a few minutes, he lays down and alerts us again. A few minutes later, startling us to the point we make a run for the truck by how aggressively my dog is warning that something's nearby. We wait, hearts pounding inside the truck, trying to see what's out there. After 30 minutes, we assume whatever it is has passed on. After we reposition ourselves in front of the fire again, My dog starts growling, and we hear the loudest tree branch snap a mere 10 feet from us in the pitch black darkness. Again, we hop in the truck with the dog and decide we better leave. As earlier that night, we were hearing wolves hunting for a few hours and their howls echoing through the night. Our main concern was it being a cougar, as they're commonly seen in this area, and there'd been a lot of attacks on unsuspecting victims. Our main thought was something was stalking us for a long time without moving on. A buddy and I camped at Jeb Pond a few summers ago. It was busy as expected with the nice weather. We set up camp mid-afternoon, then ran back out to grab some food. In the parking lot, we encountered a male and female conversing by their vehicle. The male was in the driver's seat, so assuming it was his truck. They also had a medium-sized mixed breed dog in the truck. We say hello and keep it moving. Later in the afternoon, we're standing by the water just off the trail enjoying the view, and the female comes along, walking by and stops and has a short conversation. Not long after, the guy comes along with a bag of gear, I assume. I tell them we stumbled upon an empty site on our way back in from the parking lot, but they tell us they ran into a guy that said he left the tent set up and they should find that site and use it. Against my better judgment, my buddy invites them to stop by and hang out later. I wasn't there to socialize, I was just there to chill for a night and enjoy nature. I'm 43 married, my buddy's 41 single and acts like he's 25 sometimes. The afternoon goes on until dusk and we're back, chilling at our spot with this fire going, when here comes the couple with the female walking the dog. They come into our sight and we make small talk. Meanwhile, my buddy's two small dogs are freaking out at their bigger dog. They tell us they never found the site they were looking for. Meanwhile, I'm thinking I told them there was an empty site, could have been snagged up, I guess. The guy seemed kind of uncomfortable after some simple conversation, then whispers to the girl something about, "Did you check on Spot?" Then leaves to go back to the parking lot. The girl makes it known that they're not together and she is a wanderer just living with this guy for now. The girl then tells us he had another small dog and they let him out running around by the parking lot. To me, that seems very irresponsible. Immediately, I'm getting a bad feeling. I'm thinking maybe he's going back out to break into our vehicles or who knows what. 5 minutes after he walks away, she says she needs to get food for her dog in the truck. She ties her dog up and walks out. Comes back 10 minutes later, says the guy's gone. He took off, left her. I'll state this now. I don't trust people in general, and I'm always prepared to deal with any situation that may present itself. I have a lot of compassion for animals, though. If it wasn't for the dogs, we would have told the girl to beat it. She didn't seem upset or nervous at all that her friend just abandoned her in the middle of nowhere, with no cell service to get a hold of anybody. My buddy starts questioning her on various aspects of her situation, and what the hell just happened, but she's just chilling by her fire, seemingly enjoying the night. It's never officially discussed that we'll let her stay, but she ends up staying at our site. I gave her my leftover food and some water to have for herself and her dog, and an extra blanket I had. In the meantime, throughout the evening, my buddy and I both make separate trips to the parking lot to our vehicles. Never saw the guy or his truck again, but there were more people arriving throughout the night. She ended up sleeping by a fire with her dog, and when I got up around 6:30 a.m., she got up and got herself together and left our site. She then continued to walk the path to the parking lot, and then back towards deeper into the trail multiple times, back and forth before we left. So freaking weird. There was something more to that story that we definitely don't know. I was camping in Northeast Ohio by myself on the third and final night there. I woke up to use the bathroom, walked about 10 feet from my hammock, and noticed a headlamp about 80 to 100 feet from me. I watched it for about 10 minutes. I watched him stand up and sit down. I got my boots on and grabbed my hatchet and started to walk to the right of my campsite. I was going to find out what he was up to. I got about 50 yards from my site and started walking towards him when I noticed another headlamp about 40 feet from me walking around. I hit the ground and threw some leaves on me. He walked about 10 feet from me where I was laying. Then he stopped, lit a cigarette, and finished his beer. After he got far enough that he couldn't hear me, I got up and started walking towards the first guy. I got close enough to him that I could hear his phone receiving messages. I moved up closer to him, quietly to where I could see his face lit up from his cell phone. That's when he stood up and started walking towards my hammock. I lay there on the ground for a minute and made my way towards my site. I stopped when I started hearing my tarp. that I had above my hammock being trashed. Then I could see flashlights, and then my big flashlight turned on and off. I hear my mess kit being thrown and then talking about how he was just here. I laid on the ground and watched my flashlight walk away until it was a small dim light. When the sun came up and I returned, my whole sight was destroyed. My hammock and tarp were shredded by what looks like a machete. My mess kit was stomped on. They took my backpack, rain gear, and flashlight. I went to the spot where I found the first guy and found chew pouches, 8 empty bear cans, and an empty lighter. I walked to where I saw the other guy and found an empty bag of powder, which turned out to be meth and a mess of cigarette butts.